A mother shot nearly a dozen times while her 3 kids slept by her side.
This is Porsche Streer, a 30-year-old mother of 3 who would be found dead in her own bed with her children beside her on January 13, 2024. She was shot 10 times while sleeping alongside her kids aged 10, 2, and 1. But investigators would soon uncover that this was no random home invasion. This was something far more calculated, that had been planned down to the smallest detail, and the evidence would reveal a betrayal so deep it's almost impossible to comprehend. Let me take you back to where this story really begins, back to the high school hallways of Orlando, Florida, where Porsche Nikita Shanae Streeter and her baby daddy, Son Range Jr., first crossed paths. Their relationship stretched back more than a decade, rooted in teenage romance that eventually produced 3 beautiful children. Porsche had built something meaningful for herself and her kids. She attended several schools growing up in the Orlando area, moving through Pinewood Elementary, Robbinswood Middle School, then bouncing between Apopka High School, West Orange High School, and South Lake High School before finally graduating from Maynard Evans High School. Her path showed someone who kept pushing forward despite whatever obstacles might have caused those moves. And she channeled that determination into her career, working as an independent hairstylist and makeup artist, operating her business right from her home apartment on Woodhill Park Drive. Friends and family described her as caring, respectful, quiet, and loving, a devoted mother whose life centered entirely around those 3 kids.
Family and friends describe her as a loving mom and a gifted hair and makeup artist.
She was so talented. You could show her a picture, and I guarantee you were going to look like the picture that you want.
But beneath the surface of family photos and everyday routines, the relationship between Porsche and Son had become toxic. Court documents would later reveal a pattern of breakups and reconciliations, infidelity from both sides, and escalating violence. Porsche maintained primary custody of the children and was the sole person on the apartment lease. Son visited sporadically, sometimes staying over, but their dynamic had deteriorated into something dangerous. Just days before her death, witnesses say Son physically assaulted Porsche, leaving visible bruises that friends documented with photographs. The tensions between them weren't just about past hurts or broken trust. They were fighting over custody of the children, with Son growing increasingly frustrated that Porsche refused to give him full control. He also believed she was hiding money from him.
And deputies laid out some possible motives here in this case. They say the suspect was upset his ex was in a new relationship. The 2 disagreed over the custody of their children, and deputies say the suspect was having some money problems while she was not.
Text messages between them revealed the depth of their discord. In one exchange that would later be entered into evidence, Porsche called Son a sissy, an insult that seemed to particularly infuriate him. More significantly, text messages showed that Son was not authorized to be at the apartment on the night of the shooting. Porsche had made it clear he wasn't welcome that evening, but boundaries meant nothing to someone who had already decided how this would end. On the evening of January 13, 2024, an argument erupted between Porsche and Son when he took her phone charger and apartment key without permission. That stolen key would become his way into the apartment later that night, allowing him to enter without the kind of forced entry that would raise immediate suspicions. Late that night, using the stolen key, Son and Benjamin entered the apartment. Porsche was asleep in her bed with all 3 of her children beside her, a 10-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, all sleeping peacefully next to their mother. Son allegedly fired 10 shots into Porsche as she lay there, the gunshots tearing through the quiet of the night. After the shooting, Son and Benjamin initially fled the scene, leaving Porsche either dead or dying on the bed. But they weren't done staging their elaborate lie. They came back, and in a move that shows just how calculated this whole thing was, Benjamin shot Son in the arm, a superficial wound designed to make him look like a victim too, and had also been targeted by this supposed intruder. Then, and only then, did Son dial 911. It was approximately 9:30 at night when that call came in, roughly 2 hours after the actual shooting had occurred. When deputies from the Orange County Sheriff's Office arrived at the apartment on the 7,300 block of Woodhill Park Drive, they found a scene that was supposed to look like a home invasion gone wrong. The master bedroom door showed signs of forced entry, as if someone had kicked it in. Son was seated on the floor with that single gunshot wound to his upper arm, playing the role of traumatized survivor. And Porsche was unresponsive on the floor, her body bearing wounds on her legs, her arms, her torso. But what immediately caught the attention of the responding deputies was the dried blood around her wounds and the early signs of mild decomposition. Son told investigators that he had just been talking to her and thought she was fine, but the forensic evidence painted a completely different picture. The medical examiner's assessment indicated that Porsche had likely been deceased for approximately 2 hours before that 911 call. From the very beginning, investigators had questions about Son's account. The story Son told deputies was elaborate but full of holes. He claimed that an unknown intruder had broken into the apartment, demanding money. According to his version, this intruder went into the bedroom, kicked his 10-year-old son in the head, and then opened fire on Porsche. Son said the intruder then shot him in the arm and stole $2,000 in cash, along with 3 cell phones. But here's where the story really falls apart. Son claimed he then chased this armed assailant while unarmed himself and somehow wrestled the stolen phones back from him. Detectives found this scenario unfathomable, and they were right to. What kind of person pursues an armed assailant who just killed someone, especially when that person is supposedly protecting 3 small children? According to the arrest affidavit, one particularly glaring inconsistency stood out. It should be noted that after he was shot once, Son Range Jr. found it imperative to run and knock on several doors, begging for help, asking people to dial 911, something he did not find reasonable after Porsche Streer was shot 10 times in bed in front of her children. The investigation that followed would span more than a year, involving hundreds of hours of detective work, surveillance footage analysis, witness interviews, and forensic examination. One of the most crucial pieces of evidence came from surveillance cameras around the apartment complex and nearby areas. Footage showed Son and Benjamin driving together near Porsche's residence on the morning of January 13th, with Son visibly pointing out the location to his cousin. This was reconnaissance, plain and simple. And later that night, after the gunshots were heard, cameras captured a figure matching Benjamin's description fleeing the scene, wearing a distinctive brightly colored Ferrari coat. That coat would become a key identifier because Benjamin had posted photos on his Instagram account wearing that exact same coat, often posing with firearms. His social media portrayed him as a jackboy, street slang for a robber, showing off pistols with extended magazines and an AR-15 style weapon. It was almost as if he was auditioning for the role he would play in this staged home invasion. But perhaps the most powerful corroboration came from an unlikely source, Porsche's 10-year-old son who was in the bed during the attack. That child had seen the intruder, and when investigators spoke with him, his description matched Benjamin's appearance exactly, down to that Ferrari coat visible in the surveillance footage and social media posts. And if there was any doubt about Son's intentions that night, those doubts evaporated when investigators reviewed footage from a Ring camera at the home of Son's half-brother, Damian Range. Hours before the shooting, that camera captured Son bragging, "We upped the murder rate." Investigators also discovered that footage from a front door camera at Porsche's apartment had been deleted, and they attributed that deletion to Son's efforts to erase incriminating evidence. The attempt to cover his tracks extended to digital evidence as well. Cell phone records documented approximately 18 communications between Son and Benjamin in the hours leading up to the murder, suggesting careful coordination of their plan. Additional evidence came from friends of Porsche who came forward after her death. These friends provided investigators with photographs documenting the physical assaults Son had committed against Porsche just days before the murder, showing visible bruises and injuries. Another witness confirmed this assault, establishing a clear pattern of escalating domestic violence. And then there was the testimony of Damian Range, Son's half-brother, who would eventually become a key state witness in the case.
Deputies say Sean Range, the father of Streeter's 3 kids, worked with his cousin, Benjamin Garman, to kill her and even stage a home invasion.
Damian recounted how Son had given him multiple versions of what happened that night. In one version, Son claimed he was drunk when assailants rushed him. In another, he described trying to help Porsche, bandaging her wounds and begging her to keep fighting as she bled out. But the most bizarre claim was that he had passed out from blood loss and woke up scratching into a body bag, completely unaware that Porsche was dead. These constantly shifting stories revealed someone desperately trying to find a narrative that would absolve him, but each new version only highlighted the lies in the previous one. After more than a year of painstaking investigation, on April 3, 2025, the Orange County Sheriff's Office announced the arrests of both Son Landis Range Jr. and Benjamin Ali Garman Jr. Both men were charged with first-degree murder in connection with Porsche's death.
Arrest has been made after a brutal murder in the Sunshine State back in 2024.
A deputy is taking a man into custody this week in connection to the killing. They say the man who pulled the trigger knew the victim since high school. Investigators say 30-year-old mother Porsche Streer ran a hairdressing business from her apartment, which became a crime scene in January of 2024. Deputies responding to find Streer shot to death and her boyfriend, 32-year-old Sean Range Jr., shot in the upper arm. More than a year later, the Orange County Sheriff's Office arresting Range for the killing, saying he orchestrated the whole thing along with a man named Benjamin Garman, making it all look like a home invasion.
You're now in a situation where you are looking at life in prison.
Criminal defense attorney Trey Flynn, who's unassociated with the case, says the brutal nature of the killing elevates it.
This is a very, very, very serious crime. In this situation, Mr. Garman is alleged to have shot somebody not just one time, but 10 times. And what does that mean? That means there's an aggravation there in this sort of homicide case. You're not going to be able to claim self-defense in this sort of situation.
This new mugshot of Garman was taken when he was transferred to Orange County custody. He was previously being held out of county on federal weapons charges, to which he pled guilty. Investigators allege Range and Garman set up the home invasion killing because of a custody dispute between Range and Streer, and because he said Streer was hiding money from him. And deputies describe the relationship as toxic, with reports of domestic abuse and infidelity. The victim's cousin says she was a good mom who worked from home as a hairdresser. The investigation into the killing does continue, and we will continue to watch it as well.
The sheriff's office made their announcement via news release and social media, and you could feel the satisfaction in their statement when they said that despite Son's elaborate staging, his story never rang true for their detectives, who had spent over a year working to secure justice for Porsche. Benjamin's path to facing these charges took a somewhat winding route. At the time of the murder investigation, he was already in custody on unrelated federal weapons charges. See, investigators had executed search warrants on a residence Benjamin was associated with after the homicide, and during that search, they located firearms. Now, Benjamin is a convicted felon, which means he's legally prohibited from possessing firearms. Federal prosecutors saw an opportunity and brought charges against him for being a felon in possession of firearms and ammunition. Benjamin would eventually plead guilty to those federal charges in late 2025, but his sentencing was deliberately held in abeyance, delayed until the murder case could be resolved. The federal government wanted to make sure that any sentence he received for the weapons charges wouldn't interfere with the much more serious state charges he was facing for his role in Porsche's murder. Because Benjamin was being held out of county on those federal charges, it wasn't until January 10, 2026 that he was transferred to Orange County custody to face the local murder proceedings. His arraignment took place on January 26, 2026, marking a significant procedural milestone in the case. But there's another complicating factor in Benjamin's legal proceedings. In January 2026, his public defender filed a motion to withdraw from the case due to a conflict of interest. The conflict was that the public defender's office had previously represented Damian Range, Son's half-brother, who is now serving as a key state witness against both defendants. Under Florida's rules of professional conduct, this creates an irreconcilable conflict that prevents the office from representing Benjamin. So while the murder case moves forward, there are still procedural hurdles being sorted out around legal representation. As of today, no trial dates have been set for either Son or Benjamin. Benjamin has a status hearing scheduled for February 17, 2026, which will likely address the counsel situation and move the case toward trial preparation. Son remains in custody as well, though recent updates on his specific proceedings haven't been publicly disclosed. What is clear is that both men are facing first-degree murder charges, and the evidence against them appears overwhelming. Legal experts have noted the severity of this case, with the multiple gunshots and the presence of the children serving as significant aggravating factors. When you're talking about someone being shot 10 times while their children sleep beside them, when you're talking about premeditation and conspiracy and staging an elaborate cover-up, you're talking about the kind of crime that carries the harshest possible penalties. Both defendants could be facing life imprisonment without the possibility of parole if convicted. And given the mountain of evidence that investigators have compiled, the surveillance footage, the ring camera confession, the witness testimony, the forensic details, the deleted footage, the phone records, the social media posts, it's hard to see how they mount any credible defense. This case mirrors a disturbingly similar tragedy from 2017 when Makiva Jenkins, a 33-year-old black mother of 3 in Lake Worth Beach, Florida, was shot in the head while sleeping with her children present in the home.
First brought you yesterday at 6. The search is on for a gunman who killed a mother of 3 in Boynton Beach. Today, we're hearing from her husband about her tragic final moments. CBS 4 anchor Rick Fulbaum is in the newsroom with the man's heartbreaking story. Rick?
Well, Elliot, Yuri Jenkins says he had to watch his wife die in his arms moments after an armed intruder shot her in the head. Faced with this unspeakable tragedy, he is going to do his best to hold on to the good memories of her.
She was a strong woman, a strong Christian. She kept me level.
Yuri Jenkins is the husband of Makiva Jenkins. He says for the past 24 hours, he keeps replaying the image of his wife's brutal murder in his mind.
My wife was a good wife. She was a good mom. She was an entrepreneur. She came from nothing to something.
Jenkins says he was with Makiva just before 1:30 in the morning inside their home in unincorporated Lake Worth when a masked gunman forced the couple, a friend, and their children at gunpoint to go upstairs. They persuaded the gunman to let the children leave the house before they were forced to lie face down on the floor. Yuri then saw the gunman shoot his wife in the head.
I held her in my arms. She was alive.
He says the emotional trauma is something that will last his lifetime, but now his priority is his children.
My oldest daughter, she's taking it hard. My 6-year-old, he knows, but he doesn't know. And my baby girl, she don't really know what's going on. She's 1 year old.
Jenkins, a barber by trade, telling CBS News that to get through this difficult time, he'll look to his family and his church for support. Heartbreaking story. And just 2 hours before her death, Jenkins had posted on Facebook, Elliot, that she was proud of herself for working her way from homelessness to financial success in just 2 years. Relatives fear that her post may have had something to do with her death. In the newsroom, Rick Fulbaum. Elliot, back to you.
That incident was also staged as a random home invasion, but investigators determined that her husband, Yuri Jenkins, had hired 2 accomplices to execute the murder, driven by financial motives and marital discord.
Yuri, did you kill your wife?
No, I didn't.
You said you were innocent.
I am innocent.
And then what happened?
God will vindicate me.
What do you have to say about this, Yuri?
This is some bull. God will vindicate me.
You say you're innocent?
I'm innocent. Yes, I am.
We begin with breaking news surrounding the murder of a Palm Beach County mother. The U.S. Marshals confirmed to WPTV Marshals arrested Makiva Jenkins' husband in connection with her death. Yuri Jenkins is in the custody of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, being questioned right now. This killing in late June got much attention because of Mrs. Jenkins' personal story of success. Shortly before her death, she had posted on Facebook how she once was homeless and through hard work had opened her own business. Look for updates on this breaking story in our app and also at 11 tonight.
Makiva, like Porsche, was a successful, outward-facing woman. She was a mother, entrepreneur, a woman who, on the surface, seemed to be managing her circumstances. But behind closed doors, they were dealing with partners who saw them as property, who couldn't handle being challenged or left, who ultimately chose murder over letting go. The red flags were there in both cases: prior violence, controlling behavior, financial disputes, but they escalated so quickly that intervention became impossible. What do you think about this case? Do you think Porsche's life would have been saved if she reported the domestic violence to the police? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.